Welcome, everybody, to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Today, we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs, but we're also going to be talking about the U18 tournament that just finished, the upcoming World Championships. So get ready. Join us here for the next 20, 30 minutes as we go through everything hockey like we do on this show. No Game of Thrones, no end game spoilers, nothing like that. We're all about hockey here. So second round of the playoffs has got started here, Matt. Every series is tied 1-1 other than the Carolina Islanders series, where Carolina steals both games in Brooklyn, not Long Island. We knew that might be an issue. And even though they're battling a lot of injuries, they seem to steal the show. Is that the most surprising thing so far for you, or what stands out the most?
Yeah. I think Carolina just continuing to win. It's just like they had three guys go down with injury yesterday. You had Peter Mrazek.
Oh, Clutterbuck's hit was nice though.
Oh yeah, that was a massive hit. But yeah, Peter Mrazek leave early in the second period with a lower body injury. He was moving from his left to his right, probably
a groin maybe.
Yeah. So he's listed as day-to-day, but that can mean anything in the playoffs. Trevor Van Riemsdyk on the first shift got destroyed by Cal Clutterbuck and left with a shoulder injury. He's going to be having an MRI on that, but you can say he's out indefinitely there. And towards the end of the game, Saku Manalainen left with a hand injury, and he had surgery today, I believe, and he's out 10 to 14 days. And then you add on top of that, you have Svechnikov, Ferland, and Martinuk are all out day-to-day right now, too, on top of that. It's crazy that they're even in the position that they are, but it's a next man up mentality, and the way Rod Brind'Amour has been coaching that team, it's just crazy.
Well, I did see Brock McGinn take a slap shot to the face, too, near the end of that game against the Islanders yesterday. And they are the walking wounded for sure, but I'm not going to count Barry Trotz and the Islanders out yet. And Curtis McElhinney came in from Mrazek and played fantastic yesterday. That series to me is a little bit of a surprise. I thought it'd be 1-1 maybe after the two games, but Boston Columbus, a couple of overtime games there, and I believe both went to overtime. And it's been that tight. I expect it to be that tight now going back to Columbus. What have you liked about that series so far?
Yeah, just wanted to touch quickly on McElhinney right before that. That was his first career playoff win at 35 years old and 340 days. He was the third oldest goalie in the NHL to record his first NHL win. The only two older goalies to get their first career playoff win, Eddie Johnson at 36 years and 136 days in 1972 for the Boston Bruins, and Lester Patrick at 44 years old and 99 days for the New York Rangers all the way back in 1928 are the only two goalies older than McElhinney to get their first career playoff win. But going to Boston and Columbus, I think this series has lived up to where it's supposed to be. Sergei Bobrovsky, holy crap!
Yeah, he's played phenomenal.
This guy's gonna be getting Carey Price money in the offseason, especially like last game in the overtimes. Like some of those saves that he made, that save on Bergeron after he made that save on Marchand on that rebound was crazy. He got a little bit lucky on that one dump in by Grzelcyk where he dumped it in from center ice and took
that was a crazy bounce.
But yeah, he made like 4 or 5 just incredible saves. And then Seth Jones, I think in that game, played just over 38 minutes in that game. Him and Zach Werenski on that top pair have been really good.
Seth Jones, by the way, has been my leader as the best defenseman in these playoffs so far. I got to go with Nathan McKinnon as the best forward. But, man, Seth Jones has done an incredible job. Ben Bishop might be my favorite goalie so far in the playoffs.
Yeah. But and then just to keep going on about Columbus, it's like Artemi Panarin has really stepped up. Both of his goals were really nice, and Matt Duchene going into the playoffs, there are a lot of question marks about how he's going to perform, and he's been probably like between him and Panarin, they're top two forwards offensively. But yeah, I think the longer the series goes for Columbus, the better. Just because you had Boston going through those 7 games with Toronto, and then Columbus. It took them in that first game. They were a bit rusty trying to get their legs back underneath them. But if Bobrovsky keeps playing the way that he's going, and Columbus, especially going back home now, if they can win both of those games at home, it's basically going to be lights out there.
Well, for me, Columbus and Carolina have been a big surprise, but the Carolina Islanders series has been super physical, as has the Detroit-Dallas series. They haven't quite reached the nastiness of the Vegas-San Jose series yet, but going over to the West, St. Louis wins Game 1. Ben Bishop helped steal Game 2. And they're getting it done by their grinders, guys like Rupee Hintz, Jason Dickinson, and just, there's not enough love going around for the D that are in front of Bishop there in Dallas, because I know a lot of people talk about Klingberg and Heiskanen, but man, Esa Lindell's done a heck of a job as well.
Yeah. Bishop had a great bounce back game. Excuse me. After laying in a couple of tough goals that he would have probably wanted back. I think that one save off the end boards that went off his pad, and then it was going to go in, and he just sort of just spun and got his glove to clear it out of the crease. That was a really nice save. But yeah, the secondary scoring for Dallas, that's been key, because that was like the one thing that I was really questioning. If those guys could continue from the series with Nashville, like Roope Hintz, 2 goals and assists last game, and that one pass to Heiskanen for that goal. Oh man, right through Gunnarsson's feet, right on the tape. Zuccarello with a couple nice passes. Yeah. The one that they actually sent to Hintz before Heiskanen scored, and then he set up Hintz for his first goal of the game. But yeah, and then St. Louis, they look good in Game 1. Tarasenko
was fantastic in Game 1.
Oh, but yeah, though the scary thing is for Dallas is that Sagan and Radulov have yet to hit the scoreboard here in this series. So especially going back home to Dallas, I'd be expecting some big things from them going on in the series. And then Jordan Binnington and Bishop, it's been a great goaltending battle so far. So I think this will probably go 6 or 7 games. Just the way these two teams have been going. But yeah, it's been a really nice series to watch so far.
There is a lot of stuff after the whistles in that series too. I'm just amazed. Jamie Benn went off on somebody after a whistle, and it's nasty. I mean, and St. Louis's defense can handle it. It's Pietrangelo, Parayko, Bouwmeester. They're warriors back there, and just the stuff after the whistles is insane. But let's talk about the San Jose Colorado series quickly before we get into our other stuff. Colorado looked pretty good Game 1, and then then the tide kind of shifted, and San Jose ended up walking away with a win. But then, and I thought that might be the end of Colorado, but man, they came out strong and had another great game the other last night to tie the series 1-1. And that top line, Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon, just doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon.
I know, yeah, it's nice. It's nice because Bednar's had sort of split Rantanen up a little bit, but to have that thing where it's just like you can put them together at any time in the game, and then they just go out and do their thing. Just crazy to watch. And then, and a shout out to Sharks for Kevin Labanc for his goal that he scored in Game 1. Not Megan Rantanen putting the puck.
And his 4 points against Vegas in Game 7.
That was such a sick goal that he had there. And then in Game 2, like Cale Makar, man, this sure, he makes some defensive mistakes here and there, but offensively, this guy is going to be a superstar in this league. It's just like Tyson Berry's had a really good series, but the way Makar has been going offensively, they're basically two of the same player, basically. I'd say just the way they've been playing. And then Grubauer had a really nice bounce back game.
Good glove save off of out of the slot there.
Oh man, that was huge. Yeah, because after the first game, I wasn't sure and even early in the first period, even though Jones gave up that early goal, Jones made a few nice saves in that first period. And I was just like, okay, I'm not sure how things are going to go here, but I was really happy that Colorado was able to come back. And a shout out to Matt Calvert taking that huge hit from Brent Burns.
And he knew it was coming. He knew you could tell he saw him, but he wanted to get that puck out, and he wanted to get it to Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah, and then MacKinnon goes down, scores the empty netter, and that ends up being the game winner when it's all said and done. So I'm really happy that I was pulled out that win, because after that first game, I wasn't sure that Colorado would be able to handle the Sharks going forward. But yeah, it was just a great win. But Brent Burns has had a great playoff so far. Between him and Carlson, they're just absolutely been ripping up. Like, Carlson has 10 assists now in the playoffs, and Burns has like 4 goals and 11 points or something like that. To have those two guys on the back end is really nice. And Joe Thornton, I believe in that first game, he actually recorded his 100th career playoff assist in that game as well. So Jumbo Joe, that's like the one thing is it's like you want to see Thornton win the cup, but I'm cheering for Colorado in this series. So, but yeah, it's been really nice series to watch.
Vlasic is waiting for an apology from the NHL on the non-icing call. I've watched the replay on that, and they should have waved the icing off right away, because Brent Burns had a chance to keep it in and play it at the blue line, and it hopped over his stick, went down the ice, and then it was so tight to call that they waved it off between, I believe it was Rantanen and Vlasic skating back. Vlasic did beat him to the hash mark, but that rule only applies if they're going to be the closest to the puck. That's the linesman's judgment. And I always tell people, like, they got to play to the whistles. And you know, for the Sharks to let up because they think it's icing, you always got to play hard to the whistle. You know, I hear coaches in Pee Wee tell their players that. And yet, you know, they kind of gave up a bit. It ends up in front to Tyson Barrie and ends up scoring, which was a really big goal at the time. I don't think there's any apology coming to Vlasic anytime soon. But
no.
Give your thought on that remark, and then what is your favorite playoff series out of the 4 so far?
Oh, okay, yeah. So on the Vlasic thing, I think he was just sort of taking a little shot or whatever with how the NHL handled the Cody Eakin, Joe Pavelski incident. And he wasn't the only player throwing shade at some guys. Like, I'm not sure if you saw Brandon Dubinsky and his comments on the Boston's fans in Boston. He basically says, like, it wasn't really that loud, but I know it'll be really loud in Columbus when we get there. So he wasn't the only player throwing some shade around the NHL. But yeah, I think it was just one of those smart ass remarks or whatever, where he's just like, he was just trying to be trying to take a shot here and there. But favorite series so far, probably has to be Boston. Yeah, I think it has to be Boston-Columbus. I think so far, just because I think like the two teams I'm fully behind is Colorado and Columbus on their bandwagons. But like Columbus, man, they're at the top. Sergei Bobrovsky is probably in my top 3 goalies to watch in the NHL. Especially when he's on the top of his game, he is just so fun to watch. But yeah, I think that series has been really good. Both games have been tight, and we'll see if we get another overtime game tomorrow between those guys. Also, talking about overtime, we had 7 straight days of overtime games that came to an end, which was the second longest streak in NHL history. The longest being 9 in a row back in 2011. So yeah, a lot of overtime hockey.
Makes it exciting for sure. So in the under 18. World I don't know what they call it, World Championships.
Yeah.
Sweden beats Russia in overtime to win the gold. Russia gets silver. USA destroys Canada basically in the bronze medal game. Jack Hughes stands out. What were your thoughts on not just your thoughts, but what stood out for you in that tournament?
Yeah. So I didn't see a whole lot of the game, so I'm mostly going off the stat lines and a few of the highlights that I saw. But the one guy is, like, before we get to Hughes, Cole Kepfield. This guy's only 5'7". He had 14 goals in 7 games in the tournament. That ties Alexander Ovechkin's record for most goals in a single tournament. and to do that at only 5'7", he's supposed to be like in the top 10 in this year's draft. It's just crazy. He was actually named the tournament MVP, and Jack Hughes, on top of that, set the record for most points all time in the tournament with 32, passing Alexander Ovechkin, who had 31 points, 31 combined points in 14 games. 23 of those were goals. Jack Hughes had 14 goals and 18 assists for 32 points. That was a big standout. One guy that I saw a few highlights from, Russia's goalie Yaroslav Askarov. He's not in this year's draft, but in next year's draft. This guy's being touted as like the next like Andrei Vasilevsky, that next big Russian goalie coming up. But USA's team, I know they lost to Russia in the semifinals, but they have so many guys that are going to go in the first round. Because I mentioned Caulfield and Hughes. They have Matthew Boldy, who's a guy that, Boldy, Zegras, York, Turkov, I believe, is another one. But they got like 6 or 7 guys that would be like at least like in the top 15.
Yeah, they might set a record this year's draft with, I believe it's 8 players potentially going to be drafted in the first round from the USA team, the development team. Larson scored the overtime goal, I believe, for Sweden. And Raymond, sorry.
Yeah.
And Raymond is another prospect that's supposed to go pretty high in this draft. Anybody else stand out for you before we go on?
Those were the big ones. But going off like the tournament awards for the All-Star, Philip Brogberg for Sweden, another defenseman that's supposed to go in the first round. I've seen a little bit of some scouting reports on him, but he's supposed to be one of the top defensemen, I think, outside of like Bowen Byram with the Vancouver Giants here, and Cam York and Brogberg. I think there might be 1 or 2 other defensemen, but those are the big guys going in the top end of this year's draft.
Speaking of Bowen Byram, scouts are still flocking to the arena here at the Langley Event Center. As Vancouver Giants beat Spokane in 5, Prince Albert finished off Edmonton Oil King last night in 6. So it's a Vancouver Giants, Prince Albert Raiders final. They only met once this year, and that was in the Langley Event Center, with Langley winning 3-1 that game. That's going to set up a great Western Hockey League final. The first 2 games are in Prince Albert this Friday and Saturday. Then it comes back to Langley. I believe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday if necessary. It's a 2-3-2 series, so it'll be interesting to see how many scouts are at the arena this next time around. So it's the third time for you local people. It's the third time the Giants have made it to the Western Hockey League finals. Their first time, I believe, since 2007. I could be wrong on that. But Canada named their World Hockey Championship roster, or at least most of them today. Why don't you go off, let us know about that, and then let us know about Russia's lineup as well, because that's really intriguing.
Yeah, so Canada announced their full roster today. They could still add one or 2 players as the other teams get eliminated from the playoffs, but their top line, which will probably be I have, is Jonathan Marchessault, John Tavares, and Mark Stone. They have Tyler Bertuzzi, Sean Couturier, and Anthony Mantha, Adam Henrique, Dylan Strome, and Sam Reinhart, and Matthew Joseph, Anthony Cirelli, and Kyle Turris are their forwards, which I think is a pretty solid group. Their defense, Thomas Chabot, Shea Theodore, Darnell Nurse, Dante Fabro, Damon Severson, Brandon Montour, and Troy Stetcher are the 7 defensemen so far. Really young defense, but a lot of good upside there, which I really like.
Young goaltenders, too.
Mm-hmm. And their goalies, Matt Murray, Carter Hart, and Mackenzie Blackwood. Murray and Hart will be the 2 goalies that they will use, but both of those guys have high pedigree playing for, especially Hart playing for Team Canada, and Murray, of course, winning the 2 Stanley Cups. So I'm pretty excited about their roster, though. Speaking of rosters, Russia, you know about those Russian players. As if there's any chance to play for their home country, they will go. And I'll be excited to see them play. You got Alexander Ovechkin, Yevgeny Kuznetsov, Dmitry Orlov from the Caps. Then you got Nikita Kucherov, Mikhail Sergachev, and Andrei Vasilevsky from Tampa Bay. You got Evgeny Malkin going for Pittsburgh. You have Evgeny Danilov from Florida. And those are just to name a few right there. So Russia's roster is going to be stacked. And, of course, I think I will be trying to get highlights out over the tournament. I know it's being played in Slovakia, so depending on the time difference, will depend on when I'll be able to get highlights out for that stuff. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting tournament. It's one of those that I look forward to seeing. Just because it's just like without the Olympics or whatever, this is the next best thing that we get to it.
Absolutely. Final word before we end today's show.
The Hart and Calder finalists were announced over the weekend. For the Hart Trophy, it was Sidney Crosby, Nikita Kucherov, and Connor McDavid.
Who wins it?
It has to be Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah, I have to go with Kucherov as well.
Yeah. It's just like I know you can have the McDavid argument, and Crosby had a heck of a season, but Kucherov, like 128 points, he was just so much better than everybody else this year that you have to go with him. And the Calder finalists, Elias Pettersson, Rasmus Dahlin, and Jordan Binnington. Miro Heiskanen, I think, was absolutely robbed. I think of the Eastern bias there of a nomination. But this is Elias Pettersson's year. I know us being Canuck fans, that's who we're going to be going with. But
it can't be Eastern bias because St. Louis is in the same time zone as Dallas.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Binnington absolutely saved the season for St. Louis. So.
Yeah, but the thing is, Binnington has the higher name quality or whatever, and him being a goalie. But Binnington only played 32 games.
It's funny when we talked about this the other day. We both had Binnington as number 4.
Yeah.
I told you I wasn't going to be surprised if Binnington snuck in there. And
yeah.
The way the votes go, I guess, goaltenders sometimes carry a little bit more weight than defensemen or forwards. So.
Yeah, but it's just like if you look at Heiskanen, 12 goals for a rookie, for a teenage defenseman, 33 points, and he had averaged over 23 minutes of ice time. It's just, I don't know, I still can't, I can't get over that one.
He almost had as much ice time as Binnington.
I know, yeah, it's just no with a goalie here.
60 minutes a night, so.
Yeah, it's just, but yeah, it's like Jordan Binnington. It's like I know, like if you look at his numbers, it's just like that's great, but you played 32 games. I'm sorry, you can't win off of that. And I've heard like a couple people say that Binnington should win. Well, you got Don Cherry going off on his spiel or whatever, but if it's not Pettersson, like it has to be.
Pettersson's got to win it. So
yeah, like Pettersson, he was the first.
You're gonna be surprised. They'll be almost anonymous that it's Pettersson. And then Binnington and Dahlin were probably only got a few votes, and that's why Heiskanen's not there. Is he probably didn't get any votes. Most people voted for Pettersson.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's about all I have. But yeah, tonight's highlights will be up there. Only one game tonight between St. Louis and Dallas, which just currently started just a little while ago. Yeah. So that should be another good game. Game 3 being played in Dallas. And then tomorrow there's only 2 games. I think there's a lot of like 2-day breaks in between going from one city to the next.
Yeah, so
yeah, it'll be fun.
Those highlights that Matt's talking about will be up on our B&B Hockey Talk page on Facebook. Remember to like, share, and comment. As well on our YouTube page, B&B Hockey Talk. We appreciate all our fans wherever you may be around the world. Maybe leave us a greeting on our page in your native tongue, your native language. It'd be great to hear from you. So thanks again to all our support. And we'll be back on Wednesday of this week with another edition of B&B Hockey Talk. Everyone have a great week.